My name is Heather Nelson Tapia. I'm 39 years old. I live here in Sonoma County, born and raised, and I work for Encore Vet Rentals as the business development manager. So I'm pregnant with my fourth child. I also have three other children. I have a stepdaughter who is 15, and I also have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. So we were expecting baby number 4. I was due 2 weeks. He was due on July 23rd, and around 4th of July, I got sick. I thought that I had allergies. We were outside, doing landscaping, and I just assumed that I had allergies, and my symptoms started to get a little bit worse. Because I was pregnant, I decided not to take the vaccine. I just felt like it was still kind of new, and I wasn't quite sure of how it was going to affect the baby, and there wasn't a lot of information out there, so I chose not to take the vaccine. And that was my own choice, but I also knew that I wasn't around a lot of people. I wore a mask every day to work. Everywhere I went, I wore a mask. I didn't really socialize with a lot of people at the time, just to protect myself. And I knew that going into it, there was a risk that if I didn't get vaccinated, that I could get sick. But I, went through all the measures to make sure that I didn't. And so about 2 weeks before my son was due, I got symptoms, and the first thing was I lost my appetite. I couldn't taste anything, I couldn't smell anything. Again, I just thought it was allergies, and I finally decided to go get tested, and it took a couple days to get the results. And in the meantime, because I have other children that are going back and forth to their other families, I wanted to really make sure, that I didn't have it. So I went and got rapid testing done, and they told me that I was negative. But I was really starting to get more symptoms. I was starting to get a cough, and I was very fatigued. I couldn't get off the couch. My energy level was just really low. And so as the days kind of went on, I started to feel worse. And so when I finally got my results back, I was positive. And so being that I was 2 weeks out from having a baby, it was really scary. I was scared of what was going to happen, what was going to happen to the baby, how sick was I going to get, was I going to be in the hospital? So there was a lot of unknowns of what was going to happen. After I found out that I tested positive, I was with my children the week that I started to get sick. My daughter actually started getting sick. She was really fatigued. She had a headache, and then she developed a cough. And we did find out that she did have COVID at the time. Obviously, she's not able to get vaccinated, but it did affect her. And because she went to her other side of the family, they also now were exposed, and their whole family was vaccinated, and they all got sick. So COVID's real. It's still affecting people who have been vaccinated. Obviously not as bad as it affected me because I wasn't vaccinated, but it does definitely still make other people sick. My father's up in Alaska, and he's in a very, very small town. And him and his wife just got tested. They just got sick and was tested positive. Also both had vaccines and were sick. So again, these are all the reasons why we should get vaccinated. Especially having a newborn, I still haven't been able to see anybody. A lot of people haven't met him. My grandparents didn't get to meet him right away because my grandpa is going through chemo with cancer. And so it's a real thing. It's not something to joke around about. You get really sick. You're now not able to see other people in your family. So I definitely recommend getting vaccinated. So my test came back positive with Kaiser, and so they immediately called me right away to kind of tell me what to expect and kind of what's next. Basically, they said, you're on lockdown. Try and put yourself in a room by yourself. Luckily, I have a master bedroom with a bathroom, so I kind of just hung out there. My husband decided he had to take time off of work to take care of me. And all my kids were with their other families when I got sick, which was good because I didn't know how I was going to take care of them. But I got really sick. I went from, kind of just not feeling good to being very, very sick. I was very, very tired. There was days where I would sleep for 20 hours. I never left my room for about I think it was about 6 days. Just dry heaving. I had a really bad cough. I had really bad heartburn. So every time I had like heartburn pain, I would start coughing, and then I went to these like coughing attacks that caused me to not breathe. And these attacks would probably last about 20 minutes, but it got to a point where it was really scary because I could barely like catch my breath. So I just did a lot of sleeping. Kaiser did a great job. They checked in every day to see how my symptoms were. They just said to stay hydrated. They gave me some medicines that I could safely take during pregnancy. There was no concern about the baby because they said as long as he's moving and you're not bleeding, then you'll be good. So he was good. I could feel him every day. He was still moving. I was more concerned that I wasn't eating or I couldn't keep any water down as well. And so I was really concerned about, staying hydrated and, getting the food and stuff that I needed. So I was very dehydrated. I wasn't able to keep any food down. That's what was scary, is that I was concerned that the baby wasn't, getting food and enough water. I was trying to do the best that I could, but that's how sick I was, is that I couldn't physically eat. I never left my bed. I didn't even have the energy to watch TV. So I pretty much was just sleeping for 5 days. They told me that if it gets worse to call. Kaiser did a great job again. Like every day they would check in and see how my symptoms were. And they would give me little, tips to keep food down or to stay comfortable. Basically, I could only lay on my back. That was the only thing that was comfortable for me. Every time I laid on my side, I would have these like coughing attacks. So it was really scary. Especially my husband was really scared, having 3 children and then 1 on the way. He was really scared and concerned of like what was going to happen to me. And it got to a point where it was really scary. So one day I finally said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I need to go to the hospital. I called Kaiser and they told me to go to the ER. Went to the ER. They were great there. The problem that arose was I was pregnant, and I also had COVID. And so they didn't want to put me in the hospital side because I had a baby, because they wanted to monitor the baby. They also didn't want to put me in labor and delivery because they didn't know how to treat COVID. So it was this really weird experience to kind of like not know where I was going to go. As soon as I got to the ER, they were concerned about my breathing and my chest. So I got x-rays done, and I actually had pneumonia. I had developed pneumonia from COVID, which was causing a lot of the chest pain and the coughing. So after I got the x-rays and found out I had pneumonia, they immediately decided to admit me to the hospital. They actually put me up where the labor and delivery area was to be monitored. They wanted to make sure the baby was okay, which he was. But there were so many questions running through your head of, if I do go into labor, will I be able to see him? Will I be able to hold him? Will I be able to be in the same room with him? Will my husband be able to be there? There were so many things to think about, but I was just trying to feel better for myself. I wasn't worried about the baby. I knew he was okay, and I wasn't in labor, but I just knew that I needed to feel better. And that's what I just kept telling him. I'm like, I just want to feel better. At least one of my symptoms to feel better. I hadn't slept in the last couple days because I was so uncomfortable and I was coughing. And so I just wanted to get to a point where I could feel comfortable to sleep. And so I was able to do that. They hooked me up to IVs. I stayed overnight, and they basically just monitored my levels. I've never been poked and taken so much blood from my body. They were coming in every 2 hours to take my blood, to test my levels, to find out like how I was doing. So that was, it was hard to sleep because they're coming in to take your blood. I couldn't get up I was so sick that I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. And so that's how bad it was. And my husband had went home, but once they moved me to labor and delivery, he was able to come back, but they said if he came back that he couldn't leave. So we were basically locked down in this room together. And they took about 2 days to kind of figure out what was going on with me, how to get me to a comfortable spot. So they basically kept me in a labor delivery room, and they were running all the tests to figure out, what was going to make me feel better. So it took about 2 days for them to get me to a point where I I had energy to eat. I had energy to get up. But it was a lot of kind of trial and error. They were giving me different medicines to see what would work, what would make me feel better. Obviously everything they gave me was, safe for the baby. But it was very scary. I mean, there was points where they said that some of my levels, I was on an oxygen tank. My acid levels were really high. So they were questioning kind of like what I was eating. But some of my levels were just very extreme, that they were scared of what was going to happen. And it's scary, I obviously was in a different world, but my husband was worried, like, what if she doesn't make it? There was a lot of talks of, do we go ahead and induce her to get the baby out to make her feel comfortable? Do we put her in a schedule a C-section, take the baby out that way? Again, he wasn't due for another 2 weeks, so we knew we had some time to kind of figure out what was going to happen. And because he wasn't trying to come out, we were good. They were just trying to get me to feel comfortable. I had like 3 different doctors. I had a OBGYN doctor. I had a pediatrician. We had the doctor that was on schedule, and everyone was just kind of trying to figure out what was best for me and what was best for the baby. So after 2 days of monitoring me and different medications and things like that, I finally got to a spot where I felt comfortable, that I knew that if he were to come, that I could be able to give birth. So after 2 days this is now 3 days in the hospital, 2 days of monitoring me and giving me drugs and getting me to a point, I woke up one morning and I started having contractions. And I was like, there's no way he's going to come this early. But sure enough, he did. I was watching the clock, and I remember I went from being 3 centimeters to, oh my gosh, I need to push. And the doctors were blown away with how much energy that I kind of like, my body was able to do. He came within, I think I had contractions for about 45 minutes. And by that time, I wasn't able to get an epidural, which is what I wanted. Given this is my 4th birth, I knew that was something that was definitely needed. And I knew that I needed that for the strength to get me through. But unfortunately, he came really quick. And he came I was probably in active labor for about 45 minutes. But I pushed twice and out he came. So I didn't have enough time for epidural. Somehow my body and my mind just focused in, and I was able to push him out as quickly as I could. I knew once he was out, he was going to be safe and I would feel better. So out he came, and I didn't think that I was going to go into the ER and go to the hospital to come out with my baby 2 weeks early, but I did. It's amazing what your body will do. So they basically, once he came out, they continued to monitor me. They immediately tested him for COVID, which he was negative, which was a good thing. He came out healthy. He was healthy, happy. Everything was good. I know that they were going to send the placenta to a testing site for them to use it to kind of figure out, more stuff for COVID related. I've always been a person of vaccinations and getting flu shots and those kinds of things. And so had I not been pregnant, I definitely would have been vaccinated. I think what's hard is that I knew that I couldn't get vaccinated. Well, I could, but I chose not to. And so I've been been in my own little bubble and not really being around other people. And it's really hard to see things opening up so quickly and big, massive groups of people still gathering. And for somebody who is so safe to get so sick, it's still really hard for me. But I think that it's so important to get vaccinated, again, not only for yourself, but for your family and the people around you. I just want to get over this. I want to get back to work. I was out of work for over a year and a half because I do events and we weren't able to gather. And so I'm just ready to get back to normal. And I think we need to not be selfish and think about other people. And, it's not just about you being vaccinated, but you transferring it to other people, especially with the new variants coming up. And it sounds like it's a lot worse. I was so sick. I don't ever wish that upon anyone. It was scary. And just having children and having them exposed to it and everybody around you being scared. So I just think that just go get vaccinated. It's one little shot. And I think that I think we're all ready to get back to normal and just be able to have the kids go back to school and go back to work and go back to socializing safely. So I highly encourage it. I have to wait 3 months to get vaccinated. They want to make sure, right now I have the antibodies, so I know that I can't get sick. But after 3 months, they'll test me and when the antibodies leave my body, then I can get vaccinated. And I can't wait. I'm sad that I have to wait 3 months. I wish I could get it now. But hopefully I'm safe for 3 months, and then I will be right down there getting a vaccine.